Talk and rock radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. A few weeks ago, I did an episode with some of El Paso's legendary male DJs from the 60s and 70s. We had so much fun with this show. Then a decision was made, why don't we do one with some of the El Paso Lady Djs? The three I have today were all great friends, and they're reuniting today after about 30, 40 years, whatever. Who's counting?
Like
From Indianapolis, we have Ziebriskie-Farr. She also goes by Libby. From Denver, we have ChaCha Chavez, who goes by Mary. And from El Paso, we have Turbo Tole, who goes by Flo. Hi, ladies.
Turbo Tole.
Oh, I forgot about all those names.
I have Johnny Thompson to thank for that.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny who gave you that name?
Johnny gave me that name to make sure and use with this, so I'm glad he did, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Hi, Libby. It's been a minute.
It's been a long minute. Gosh, the last time I remember talking to you was right after you moved to Denver.
Yeah, that was mid-'80s.
Yep, that's about right.
Mid-'80s was pretty much the last time that I worked in El Paso. Like 85, I think it
Wow.
was 85. Yeah.
About the
93
same
I
for
think
me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And you went to Dallas for a while first, right, Libby?
Did to Dallas, and then I've been in Indianapolis since '87.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
I knew.
back to El Paso. Let's talk about. Let's start with you first, ChaCha. About what year was it, and which station did you start your DJ jock business? You know, how long ago was it, and how long were you there?
Well, originally I was born and raised in Las Cruces, right? So Johnny Thompson, I don't know what he heard when I went down one weekend and dropped off a tape. And so KFIM, I guess, would be the first station in El Paso that I worked at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, I think I went to K-Hay. Yes, on the AM dial.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to 93Z. And then I left 93Z in 85 and I moved to Denver.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And you, Libby?
I started in '77 or '78 at KPAS, which I recently came across some old stickers when we were cleaning out our garage, and I have a KPAS sticker on my car now. But
that is so cool.
I went from KPAS to Kent 98 to KSET to KFIM.
Cool.
And I think I worked for, what was it, KISO, the AM station that KHA had that did big band music for a while. And I'd have to call my dad and go, how do you pronounce this name? It's Tex Beneke? What is this? And so I worked at a lot of them there, and then moved to Dallas and then up to Indianapolis.
Cool. And you, Flo?
And I've been an El Paso girl the whole time. Was born here and stayed here. I started, this is kind of weird. I started as an intern at Kent 98. I got my driver's license 10 days after I turned 16, and I really wanted it, so that I could drive to Kent 98 and volunteer and be an intern. Johnny K was the program director, and I met Kat Simon. And I was there, I guess, about 6 months. I quit because I was starting at UTEP. And once I got started at UTEP, there was an ad posted in, I can't remember, in Cotton Memorial for a research gig at the Pass at FM 94. So I went there and I did call out research for about a year, maybe a little longer. And it was funny because they paid me, and then they came to me one day and said, we can't afford to pay you $2.10 an hour anymore, but you can keep working here. And so I said, thanks, but no. And right away I saw an ad for K102 that was hiring somebody to do the same thing in Spanish. but I didn't speak Spanish, but I went in there and told Lee Masters that I had experience doing it. So he hired me anyway. From 102, that was my first experience on the air. I did become a jock there. From there, I went to 92. I went to K-Light and 93Z to Sunny 99.9. And at Sunny, I was mostly a production director, but I also did fill stuff for them. So around the market, and I'm still with Sunny's part of the group that I'm with. So I'm still kind of with that station.
Yeah, you're still doing the iHeart thing, right?
I am doing the iHeart thing, but mostly in the sales department.
Yeah.
Every once in a while they wrangle me into voicing something, but I kind of decided a couple of years ago that I sort of am starting to sound like somebody's grandma. So, so I'm
not.
So I'm kind of avoiding the voiceover thing to free up my time. But that's it. I've been here the whole time, and mostly in radio. I took a 3.5 break at 1 year, 3.5 year break. I worked in TV for a while, selling it, not on there, and came back to radio as fast as I could. I love radio. It's in my blood. It's what I've always wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And you know, what's really interesting about you all is that all three of you are still serving in some capacity in the broadcast industry. You know, I know Libby was doing it from a treehouse at one time, you know.
We still have our internet station, Circle City Rock Radio, and I also voice track, but I get to do it from my home for a little tiny radio station in Lebanon, Indiana.
Ah, okay. And I know
and then my
ChaCha.
big job, I was going to say my big job is I get to program music for grocery stores and convenience stores around the country. As a matter of fact, we're in all the King superstores up there in the Denver area.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got all the Kroger stores across the country, which includes Gerb's and King Supers and Kroger's and Ralph's. Yep, all those. So
all those, yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
And you program both, all genres of music?
Yeah, for a while we had Sky Zones, you know, trampoline parks, and they wanted EDM and they wanted rap music and stuff like that. And now we're pretty much just sticking to the main genres of music, pop, rock, you know, country and stuff like that, which makes my life a lot easier.
Oh, you bet. And of course, ChaCha, she's still doing some things at Denver Wine. I mean, what a cool place to do a podcast. You and Paul over there at Denver Wine. That's what it's called, right?
It's called Denver Wine Radio, and the story behind that is I worked with a young man by the name of Paul Bonaquisti, and he's way Italian. And in 2005, we worked on the air. He was on the air, and also production director and imaging director at a few of the stations that we worked together. But in 2005, we were working for CBS, and they came in and did a major blowout. And blew us all out, and he decided he was getting out at that time. That was it. He had had enough, and he followed a dream of opening up a winery. And so he's got a urban winery, and it's Colorado grapes, so it's all Colorado organic. And he's done very, very well with it. But, you know, like, you know, you said earlier, I mean, we all in some shape or form, we still continue to do something, because as I've always said, there's no radio rehab. We can't go to any kind of rehab, you know, for radio. It's like once you get bit and you're addicted, it's just like Flo said, you know, it's in your blood. It's something that, you know, you enjoy doing, whatever form it may be. And so Paul decided one day that he was taking me out of radio rehab, and he decided to put up a radio station with technology like this, you know. And he's got a radio station inside the winery, and it's called Denver Wine Radio, and we do podcast, and, you know, we do talk about wine, but he also focuses on local talent, because on Fridays he does a once a month on Fridays. He used to do it every Friday during before COVID, but he does Fridays Uncorked, and there's always a local band playing, and there's wine and there's food, and so it's really cool. So that's he put up a radio station in a winery, full blown. I mean, sweepers, promos, everything. It's like a radio station. And he has different people coming on and doing shows. And then I also work for a company called Local Radio Networks. That's an affiliate from with ABC. And I do a country internet show throughout the country. So that's how I stay into it.
That's so cool. I've really enjoyed going and looking at some of your previous episodes with Paul. Some of the bands are really phenomenal. I mean, what a perfect combination to have wine and music and a radio station all together at the same time. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that,
No, it really doesn't. And, we've done, I don't drink, and Flo knows this. I've never drank. I don't drink. I've just never liked it, whatever. So a lot of the podcasts that we've done have been him teaching me about wine and, what to look for and the different types and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a whole lot of fun. And, like he said, it just keeps him involved. And it's just another avenue for him to, promote the winery, his award wine.
When you told me Paul's name, it just it was amazing because Bonaquisti is so close to a dear friend of mine, Andre Bonaguidi, and
there you go.
And Flo right there is going, yeah.
I know Andre.
knows Andre and Patty and her his wife and everything. But I used to manage their band, and before Patty went into kind of semi-retirement with the music, but she's going to come back out here pretty soon, I think, because she's going to be hitting real retirement not too long. But anyway, her husband Andre is a wine specialist. The guy knows wines. He used to work for Glazer here in El Paso, a wine and beer distributor, and so he'll probably like. I'm going to turn him on to the show, the Bonaquisti Winery show. That I think you'll like it.
And you know what? We'd love to have him on. Seriously.
Yeah. No, he'd probably love to talk to you guys. Talk shop.
Oh,
yeah. So anyway, well, everybody's had a chance to talk a little bit about what they're doing and everything. So let's jump into some fun stories. I don't know how you want to kick this off, as far as the stories go, but, I guess we could do something like back in the day when you guys were on the air. Can you all remember any pranks or anything that you all may have played on each other, or anything that you think would warrant telling that won't get us thrown off the air? We don't want to.
That warrants will not be issued for our arrests?
That's right. I mean, when I did the last show with Pete and Sonny and JT, I had to edit about 3 or 4 hours worth of stuff. So don't do that to me, girls.
No,
I can imagine.
You know what? I'll start.
Okay.
And since we keep bringing up Johnny, I want to go back to being Turbo Flo, and how that came about. And I think it's such an interesting story because there were 3 country stations in the market at that time. There was K102, which was where I was working. Mare, were you on KHAM or the FM?
Yes, the AM.
Okay, and then another friend of ours, a woman named Dot Lloyd, was on KHFM. And so there were 3 country stations in the market. So the 3 of us were all doing 7 to midnight up against each other, but we were all friends. And so every now and then we'd all get together after we got off the air and we'd go out and we'd go someplace. And I had this stupendously sexy car. It was really hot. It was a Renault Turbo Fuego. And
I remember that.
Yeah, it was black. It had leather seats. It had the most gigantic sunroof on the planet. Anyway, so I have this car and it has little bitty bubbles over, hard plastic bubbles over the buttons that are the door locks. And we go to the Dunkin' Donuts on Mesa Street one night. So it's Dot and Mary and Flo, and we're in there. And these guys start bugging us. We're not there looking for guys, but they were kind of hassling us a little bit. And it's kind of like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And we'd all come in our own cars after work. We all hop in our cars. I lock my doors because of the guys. I go to turn the key and my car won't start.
Oh, no.
And in the meantime, I'm watching Dot peel out of the parking lot one way and Mary peel out of the parking lot the other way. And nobody's looking back, and nobody has cell phones. It's 1980
Something.
So I'm sitting there, believe it or not, finally the guys that were in the Dunkin' Donuts come out and they're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, my car's dead. And they're like, well, where's the, pop the hood, where's the battery? And I'm like, the battery was in the trunk.
Oh
And
my
I couldn't
goodness.
open my car, so I got them to call the police for me. And anyway, the police came, and the police were like, what is your problem? And I'm like, my battery's back there. They jumped my car. But Johnny Thompson loved that story. And hence, that's how I became Turbo Flo. He has never let that go, and I love it. I think it's just the most wonderful thing. But yeah, it was kind of funny because the guys in the Dunkin' Donuts that were hassling us were the ones that called the cops for me to help
They
me.
saved you.
How
They
cool.
saved me. Yeah, it was so funny. But
I
I
remember
think,
that car.
yeah, and it was so cool because the three of us would all go out together from time to time, and they're I don't know that we were so pranky. There wasn't any animosity. We all got along really great, but we competed on a great scale, But
And let
And
me,
I agree with you. I think there was a lot of mutual support for everybody's success. There was never any kind of animosity or jealousy or anything like that. We all got along, everybody, I think, in the market. The
yeah.
only one I think I never met was
Aaron Michaels.
thank you. I used to call her Silk Voice. I wanted to grow up to be Erin Michaels. Oh my goodness.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. I found her on Facebook a couple years ago, and she's doing well. She's out of radio, but still very sweet.
Wow.
We ran into her. It's been a long time. I think it has to be easily 15 years ago. And I think she was selling hammocks that she was importing out of South America or something. Yeah,
Kind of
totally.
sounds like her.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally not radio. But yeah, she was, if you were going to emulate anybody, that was who,
It,
And
it's
I think,
would be her voice. She had a voice that was on the cue.
And such a great
That was it.
delivery.
That's all she had to say.
Yeah.
I know she was awesome.
yeah,
She
no,
really
great,
was.
great
Now
delivery.
I got a question for you girls. Were you guys, when you got into radio, were you quote unquote the token female at your station? Because remember, there used to only be one woman allowed per station.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I checked off several boxes, including that one, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Fortunately, it's not that way anymore. In fact, I did a morning show up here in Indianapolis, and it was another woman and myself, which I think that was unheard of
That's
even
cool.
10 years ago.
That's really cool. No, when I got to 102, there was a woman named, and I don't remember what her name was at all. Her name was Liz, and I think it was Liz Sachs.
That's
Yes. Yes.
And
Liz Sachs did the news at KFIM.
yeah, same woman. I have no idea where she is today.
Yeah.
She was on the air at 102. And the only reason they put me on the air is they had a weekender that quit, and they in short notice, and I was doing music research for them, and they knew I wanted to be on the air, and so they let me on. And then eventually they also hired Melissa Kerr. And Melissa had a fabulous career here. She was at 102. I think she went to Y96 for a while, but I'm not sure. I hate to quote other people's careers, but she was on the air with my bill for the better part of 25 years on Sunny. you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and yeah, and they had a great career together on that station.
And she was
Uh,
she was great on the radio. I did several interviews with her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really great.
she did our public affairs, but you know, I was lucky that I typically wasn't I wasn't always the token woman, but the ranks were very thin. At 102, I remember there was only one female salesperson, and I've seen that totally flip over the years.
Oh,
Most of
big
the
time.
most of the sales staffs are women now, mostly
Exactly.
women. But Linda Sterling was the female salesperson, you know, and so and no idea where she'd be. She left and was working for the Gap for a while, but no, it's always been interesting.
It sure has. Interesting, I think, is an interesting word to actually I don't know. It's as much fun as I, have had in my career, and I have. I mean, I've been very blessed and had a lot of opportunities and stuff like that, but it's been different. I mean, it's been very different. I mean, I believe, I don't care what size the market is, or what station it was or anything like that. I mean, we as females, okay, you want to put a gender to it, and we as females, we entered a very male dominated world, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
only the last few years, I guess, with the Me Too movement and everything else, that maybe that has changed. But even when I left in 2013, 2014, there was some things that needed to be changed there. But, still very male dominated. When you look across the country, I remember when I started programming here in Deming, and I'd look for females, other females across the country, program directors to kind of network with. There weren't that many. It was a handful. And
Yeah,
look how many radio stations were across the country.
yeah,
But Flo, hit the nail on the head. I think the sales department finally got it, where they started putting in more female sales, people to represent the radio stations. Because who do we go after? Who are the target demos? Women. Hello.
yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
even here in El Paso, I can think of one that a standout name, Karen Daniels, and I think her success is probably attributed a lot to the fact that her dad was a major influence on her to get in radio, obviously because he owned stations and everything, and was GM and stuff like that. So, it's neat to see that it's turning the other direction. I know it was primarily a male dominant profession back in the day, but it is exciting to see that there's a lot more women that are doing broadcasting, because some of the best shows that I've heard are women, and they just hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Well,
I love it. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I feel really lucky right now, because I heard El Paso, the main program director that we have in the building is Patty Djs. Patty's done the morning show on Power for well over a decade. And now she does an afternoon show on KHAY. And that's interesting because country has been her personal love all along. You kind of do what you got to do to have a job, hence, the Power 102. And I know she likes that format enough and likes the audience, but she really has a passion for country. And now she's doing both of those. And that's not very typical to have programmers that are women still. All you have to do is get on something like All Access and look, and it's still mostly guys.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every once in a while.
It really truly is. I mean, even as far as Flo, like women consultants.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not that many, seriously. And it's always been such an irony to me, as not only a talent, but a programmer, that the demo that we're going after, which is women, okay, is that we don't represent the audience. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, all of that, I still have loved what I have done, for 30 years. And man, there's, the old adage, I haven't worked a day in my life. And, I've been very blessed in Denver to have been able to stay here. For me,
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing is, so many of my friends are friends that we know, every 2 years they pack up, they move, and I was very fortunate and very lucky to have been able to stay in this market for so long. But along with that, I will say I worked my ass off to stay in this market for that long,
Well, and you own a house.
Yes, I do. And I own a house.
They used to say that was the kiss of death. If you worked in radio and you bought a house, your career was going to be done.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
I got to program a station up here for a couple of years too, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But I remember in the day, back when you had cassette decks and you would tape songs off the speaker of the radio, and I always was fascinated by radio, but I never considered it as a career because there were literally no women in radio back in the middle to late 60s. And so to be able to have had a career for 40 plus years in radio, I feel very lucky, especially with the turnover that radio causes, and also the changes we've gone through. I remember at KFIM, the last station in El Paso, the turntables, we had to actually put it in gear, like either 33, 78 or 45. And now everything's digital.
There. Yeah, there. And the flipping, queuing past the, the burn in the beginning. And, sometimes, I've spoken with Johnny, speaking to Johnny Thompson, who I will always, I would not be here if it were not for Johnny Thompson. I would not have had a 30-year career had it not been for Johnny Thompson. I was just talking about him yesterday to another program director friend of mine in Chicago, because I was telling him that I was going to do this. And, Johnny had referred me and recommended me, whatever. And I said, man, that dude was so far ahead of his time. After I moved, to Denver and I started working the market and working with other program directors, and around the country, and looking back, to Johnny and when we first started and some of the things he did and how he programmed the station, I'm like, he was so far ahead of his time in so many ways. And I will always have a special place in my heart and give him credit for, like I said earlier, I don't know what the hell he heard, because it sucked. I know it sucked. Okay. So, and giving me the job, and giving me the opportunities, because he gave me so much advice, even off the air, on, my career, especially when I was coming to Denver. And, he's just, I don't know, he's very special to me. And like I said, I'll always give him major props for, starting my career, because he did.
But
really
look at the talent that he picked. There's Libby, who both went on to major market situations. So that's a good indicator. But there's a lot of other talent that he had on air, guys, and we're not here to talk about them, but guys that left and went to Dallas and went to other major markets. He had a great ear for picking talent. I kind of foisted myself upon him, but he chose well and knew what to look for and how to nurture people.
And so easy to work for.
Yeah.
So easy.
Do you all know how old Johnny was when he did his first broadcast?
18.
Really young.
Right, 13.
Oh, wow.
He was in Phoenix, and that's where he was living at the time. And his dad, that's how Johnny learned the radio business. His dad was an announcer in there and El Paso, but his dad came down with laryngitis, and he was supposed to be going on the air, and he said, I need you to fill in for me today. I can't talk, and so that's what happened, 13. And then he didn't really get going until I think it was 16 or so when he moved back to El Paso. And that's where he and I became neighbors. We lived about 3 blocks from each other off of North Loop. And the rest is history, But yeah, he's a super guy. We go way back. we both are drummers, and we've done a lot of things in our years, and had a lot of good times, and we still have a lot of fun, a lot of good times. ChaCha, I have a question for you. First of all, I'm jealous because I have never met the Rolling Stones, and and I saw just an incredible picture of you with Keith and Charlie and everything. What year was that when you took that photo?
Oh, I wish I could tell you right now. I have no idea. Seriously, I haven't a clue. I don't even remember which tour it was. I don't know. I seriously, I don't know. It had to be maybe 2005, maybe 2007, because there was still a radio rep involved. So when did they go away?
Yeah.
Not
Seriously,
soon enough.
right? You can start to like gauge what year it was by when radio reps went away, when so and so went away. I don't remember, but it's funny that story. That picture is funny because whoever sees it says, "Well, where's Mick?" Because I feel like I did meet the Rolling Stones, but I didn't meet the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And what happened is we were at the Pepsi Center, and they have a lot of different suites up there. And so the suite that was having a meet and greet before us was John Elway.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was John Elway, his wife, his kids, some Broncos, bloody, bloody, bloody. Okay. And Mick was sick that night. And they kept saying he was sick. They didn't know if they were going to cancel the show, bloody, bloody, bloody. So anyways, the show went on, and the meet and greet room before us was John Elway. And that's why you see, I don't think it's Keith. I think, who is it that he's holding a signed football that John had signed him in the picture that you're referring to.
Right.
And that's why, because the room before was John Elway's room. So when they stayed too long in that room, it's John Elway. It's Bronco players,
Well, he probably had his car dealership photos all over the walls and everything.
They're going to take a little more time with John Elway than the stupid disc jockeys next door, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, when they came out of the room, they were just about to come into our room because the door had opened and everything. And we could kind of see, the Rolling Stones, they were going to come into the room. And Mick and the manager, whatever, they were talking, and you could see him going, okay. And he walked away, and I'm like, where are you going? Hey, come out. Hello, Mick, we're over here. I got a football. So anyways, the rest of the guys came in, and Charlie didn't say a word. God rest his soul. Didn't say a word. I got to tell you that, and I said this story before. Meeting them, they acted like they were a local band at my friend Paul's winery on a Friday night. You would have never known in a million years that these guys were the Rolling Stones and one of the premier rock and roll bands in the world. You would have never known.
You know who else is like that is the Scorpions. When the Scorpions came to El Paso, and they played here like 3 times at UTEP, and I was in charge of communications for the security department up there. That's my real business, is communications. And they were so nice. I had backstage passes, and they were just fabulous. And they were like you were saying, they were like a local band. They just, hey, let's take some pictures, guys, and all this. So we did. My kids were real young, and it was so cool. Related back to the Stones, I have a little inside story here. A friend of mine, his name is Rod Hansen. He's from El Paso. He lives in San Diego now, but his wife is married to Keith Richards, Patty Hansen.
Oh, wow.
I knew that.
For a long time.
Yeah.
I knew that.
And I am trying to get Keith to do a show with me, and through Rod. I hope I can pull this off. But I said, hey, man, I'll make you famous real quick. I'll get you and Patty and Keith on there, and I'll let you do most of the talking. I'm going to sit back and watch it. So
I have a Stone story, too. Do you guys remember Jim Zippo that was the program director at Kent 98? I don't know how he pulled it off, but when I went to go see the Stones in Dallas, it was 1981 on Halloween, a band that nobody had heard of before named the Fabulous Thunderbirds opened up.
Oh, wow.
Then ZZ Top. and then the Rolling Stones. And somehow he pulled it off that I got to interview Bill Wyman.
Oh, nice.
And here I was, barely 21 years old and had braces on. And little did I know that Bill Wyman loved little girls with braces back in the day.
Oh, no.
I got to interview him. And that has, for me, just been like, I don't have a tape of it or anything, but it was very exciting. Very, very exciting.
That's so cool.
And yeah, and I had a perm and oh my God, it was crazy. I look back at the picture because there was the El Paso Times printed an article, and that's all I have of that is a copy of a copy of a copy of the article. But that was a big moment for me in my career.
That's a cool story. Random question. Do any of you all have, speaking of copies, do you all have any of the jingles or anything from your stations back in the 70s and 80s when you were working in El Paso? Any of the? Probably.
I might have from KFIM because I know they're on my master air checks somewhere.
If you can find any of your air checks, if you could pull that for me, I would love to have that because I've been trying. My show airs on KINT. On their radio show, and every Thursday night at 9:00, I know they rebroadcast my shows, and they were asking me if I had any of the old jingles from KINT days or KELP, and I said I don't. And Sonny directed me over to, I think they're called Pam or something like that, and the guys over at KINT have been trying to get the jingles from them, but I think because unless there's money involved, they don't even care about the request. They don't even want to help us, So
have you gone to Real? I think it's Real, REEL Radio. It's a website, or it used to be a website, and it was all old air checks of people back in the day from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called. But there's a lot of stuff on there if it's still around.
Thank you for that. I'm writing it down. I'll definitely check that out. And but I think it'd be kind of fun because as I do more of these shows, I'm going to do a few more. There's a couple other people that want to do one. I think Cynthia Weiss wants to do one, and and then Dieter Jester called me one day, and Mike Wall. I don't know if you all ever knew Mike Phillips and Wall.
I loved Guy Phillips. I was in love with him for the longest time. And he was one of those guys that I just listened to that sounded like he was having so much fun on the radio. He made me want to do that job. The only thing, I think I would have been a better jock if I had been able to listen to women. But
yeah.
No, I loved Guy Phillips. I loved Phillips and Wall. Followed him from X-Rock 80 to Kent or back or however they went.
Gosh,
and
all these names.
Well, Mike Wall was the lead singer in one of my bands, in one of my very first bands before I started playing with the West Hampton Barge, and then Jim Reese from the Bobby Fuller Four. After Bobby was killed, we had another band after that was my big El Paso success story. We played 6 nights a week at the Knights Club, if you all remember that place, the Roadway Inn at Bassett. But Mike Wall, we go so far back, and I was talking to him the other day. I don't know if you followed Phillips and Wall, but when they left El Paso, they went to St. Louis, Flo, and Mike. He ended up being the dean of fine arts at Lindenwood University there in St. Charles.
That's so funny. I had no idea what had happened to him. I know that Guy Phillips had a great career at KYKY, and he retired in the last 2 years, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I talked to Mike the other day, and we're going to try. He was going to go ahead and talk to Guy and find out if he would want to do a show, but I'm going to try to get the two of them on with me and let them do some of their shtick from the old days. Of course, some of that stuff we can't air. It was pretty raunchy, pretty bad, but some of the funny stuff will be good. We'll try to do that. But.
Another El Paso legend that has since passed away, but Steve Crosno.
Oh, he was the best.
All about El Paso radio. He was fun. He was funny.
You need to listen to the episode, Libby, that we did, that I did with Pete Heinlein, Sonny, and Johnny. We did it about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talk quite a bit about Steve and what a great guy he was in the El Paso market. He just, he did so many things for so many people. He had the Frog Death label, with his records, and friends of mine that recorded on his label there in Las Cruces. He just had a knack for people. People loved him. And that's all you can really say about Steve Krosno. He was one of those.
Yeah, it was like. I got to work across the hall from him. I was on the FM at KSET, and he was on the AM, and we were both on 7 to midnight, and it was fun. And Mark Ross was there too. I don't know if you guys remember him.
He's in TV.
That's what I thought. But yeah, Steve Krosno, definitely a legend in El Paso radio.
I kind of did the same thing. By the time I got to 93Z, it was Z93. That was fairly short, and Krosno was on Comma, which was next door. I did a morning show with Cat Simon. That's the name.
Good old Cat.
I did a morning show with Cat Simon, and you guys might not remember him, a guy named Chip Taberski, who did the sports on the CBS affiliate.
Of course.
And so it was the three of us, and Krosno was next door. And in fact, for part of that, I was pregnant with my son, and I just, not even specifically related to the fact that I was pregnant, although he was extra nice when I was pregnant, but Steve was just one of the nicest human beings that you would ever hope to meet in your life. And he was that way to everybody. He was kind, he was patient, he was giving. Since I was going to have this child, I needed a 4-door car, and so I bought this car. And unfortunately, the type of car that I bought was high theft at the time in El Paso. He goes, "Oh, go see my friend Steve at Music Systems. He'll fix you up with an alarm that you can put on your car."
Steve had
like that.
Music Systems.
Steve had that, right?
Steve had that, exactly. That I go to Music Systems and nobody ever sends me a bill, and life is good, and I have an alarm on my damn Jetta, so nobody, and I should have let somebody steal it, but that's another story. But no, he just one of the nicest people you would ever hope to meet. He was
he was one of those guys back in his day that really pushed the envelope, and he could pull it off. He knew his limits and what he could do, but I tell you, what he did, you'd get thrown off the air these days. There's no way. I mean, the radio police would have taken you down just as quick as a New York minute. And we talked about that. Some of the stories that they were sharing, like Pete Heinlein, he was telling one story about Krosno, which I will not repeat, but I mean, what he was able to get away with on the radio was amazing. But I had to edit that out because there was no way I was going to put the language on my radio show. But it's
ever since Nipplegate, they've been really, really hard about everything. It's what sent Howard Stern to satellite radio, because think about it, Howard Stern was on broadcast radio until that. And that's when he went to satellite. You just had to do that. And so it changed. It took a lot of that innuendo off the air,
It absolutely did.
Well, it wasn't fun anymore. When you have to resort to shock radio and use that as your gimmick, and then it takes your imagination away from it totally. And I agree with you. That must have ruined it a lot, And there's a few others that still still do that, but I don't know. I don't miss listening to him at all, but
no, me neither.
I got to work with Bob and Tom up here. That's how I got to Indianapolis before they syndicated, and it was insane. There was nothing funnier on the radio at the time. It was so much fun, but crazy. You could never get away with it now.
Yeah. Well, in that episode that we did with those three guys, we called it Back When Radio Was Fun. because basically that's what it was, and I'm watching you guys right now, and I'm seeing a common thread here, and that was, number one, respect for each other, which I think is so great. It really is a great thing. And the other thing is that you had fun and you never worked a day in your life, ChaCha, like you said. It's that I had a keyboard player that worked with me out of Newport Beach, where we were out there in LA when we were on the road. And that's one of the things he said. I never worked a day in my life. When you love what you're doing and that's what makes it all worthwhile. And I've heard about how much was being made, $1.50 an hour, back in the day when the guys were starting out at KINT and Kelp, and then Sonny got like a 25-cent increase or whatever to get stolen from one station to go to the other. I'm going, my gosh, did we really prostitute ourselves that much?
Yes, we did. And I still have my pay stubs from KFIM. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That's
You
cool.
still have your
Signed by Ron Marks.
Oh,
There you go. Ronnie
good for
Marks. How
Ron
about
Marks.
that? Yeah.
Speaking of best GM I've ever worked for to this date.
No
That's
doubt.
cool.
Now, did you
Yeah.
guys have to take the test to be on the air? Remember when you had to have a class, what was it, 9?
Yeah, the FCC license.
I came across mine the other day. It's got a nice big coffee stain on it.
Yeah, I still have mine. I still have mine. It's in the jewelry box.
Now, I had decided that I wanted this great career in broadcasting, and that eventually I was going to get a first phone. And about the time between when I sent in my paperwork to get a 3rd class license and when it came back, they eliminated the 3rd class. You still had to have a 1st class license if you were an engineer, but then suddenly I wasn't so motivated to be an engineer. But because it was more fun to be on the radio. Yeah, hey, I can do that. But speaking of great GMs, and I love Ronnie with all my heart. He was the nicest guy that I ever worked for. But my claim to fame, in a weird way, it's not my claim, but what I think is the most interesting thing in my career is that I worked for Lee Masters, who, after leaving here, went back to Louisville. He was a partner in WLRS and then went back to New York, where he had been a jock. I can never remember if it was on WABC or WNBC. I think he was N. I think he was N. But he got out of that and joined forces with a guy named Bob Pittman, who had created MTV. And Lee went on to create VH1. And has had just a fabulous career. And I learned so much from him in a really, really short window. He was one of those guys who would really explain to you why you set up what you're going to say this way. Mm-hmm. And that was really, really time very well spent for me. Mm-hmm. But and then I think he retired recently, but he spent about the last 3, maybe 4 years running NPR.
I had no idea. That is so interesting.
Yeah, he's mostly going by his real name, which is Jarl Mohn, Mohn. But I'm just like this geeky fan chick, It's like I don't want to say I stalk him, but every once in a while I'm looking on LinkedIn, But yeah, he went on to have a huge career, and he had a huge career before he ever got here. He'd been on the air in New York, and there were all of these people like Sonny, like Lee, who either came through and worked major markets before they came here, or left and went to majors like you two. And I think that's cool.
That is cool. I have a question for you all, and I don't care who starts first, but back when you all were on the air in El Paso, can you think of a particular moment where you said something that you regretted?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Okay. So I'm doing the news. And this is so funny. As the sidekick person on a morning show, the chick did the news. And so we had a teletype thing that would spit out national stuff. And then the El Paso Times was delivered to the doorway, kind of mark that up and steal a story from it. And this is when I was doing the morning show with Kat, and Larry Francis was the mayor. And I'm doing this story and blah, blah, blah. And instead of saying Mayor Larry Francis, I said Layer Mary Francis. And it was one of those, I knew I had said it, and I stopped because I knew that if I tried to fix it, I was not going to be able to fix it. I finished the story, signed off, and rolled on the floor laughing. So Layer Mary Francis. And so
That's
Mayor
funny.
Larry, one is just one of those flips, but it's like, he's the mayor, get his name right. So anyway, that was one of my bads. There were others.
How about you, ChaCha?
I don't know if it's something I said, but I remember going through a whole bag of French onion potato chips while the microphone was on. And the hotline, this one request line just kept ringing and 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 ringing. And finally I go, hello, whatever. And they're like, what is that noise? One of those. And I'm like, what noise? And she said, there was like this noise over that song you're playing, like crunching. And I'm like, oh God. Yeah. So
That's hilarious.
I enjoyed my chips going on the air while the record's playing. Yeah.
Okay, Libby, you're on.
Gosh, I don't remember actually saying anything like that. I do remember, though, Johnny Thompson let me do a special on the 5th anniversary of John Lennon's death. And some guy called the station and said they were going to blow it up if I did that special because they were a Vietnam vet and how dare I? And they had police crews in the parking lot that night. And that's one story I remember. I remember a couple of crazy fan stories is what I remember, not only from there, but other stations. It's been interesting.
Do you guys remember the guy that would call and offer to shine your shoes?
Oh, I do. I forgot about that.
Yeah, this guy would call. You may have been gone already, Mayor. This guy that was in El Paso would call all the female jocks and say, "Hey, can I shine your shoes?"
I forgot about that. You're
It
right.
was just weird. It was just, yeah.
Did you guys ever get any of the jail phone calls where?
Oh yeah.
Would you accept a collect phone call from, and then they would insert their name? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You could always tell it was because you'd hit the request line and there'd be like 3 seconds of dead air, right?
Yep.
A pause, and almost like, will you accept a call from the such and such county jail? No. Click. Yeah. And the letters. I used to get letters with all kinds
me
of
too.
pictures.
Yeah. This is
You know-
George and Selbot B.
So what are you going to say on that break? Hey, thanks for listening.
Oh, I wish I would have thought to bring it. I came across a letter that was written by the GM of the radio station up here in Indianapolis, and somebody didn't lock the back door. And I was working 7 to midnight, and all of a sudden a guy walked into the control room and started showing me naked pictures of himself. And fortunately, there was another jock at the station that escorted him out. But this memo is hilarious when you read it because they're like, we're serious. You really need to lock the back door and stuff. And it's like, and you said the letters. I got a few letters where they cut out all the letters out of a magazine and pasted them together.
Oh,
Oh my God, it looked like a ransom note.
Yes. I mean, it was insane. I bet you the men jocks didn't get as much of that, but they got plenty of action on the request line.
I was just going to say they didn't need the prisons.
No.
they were the ones calling in saying, "Do you want your shoes shined?"
Exactly. And I'll shine your shoes.
Oh
Crazy.
gosh. All right. I got one more question that I want to throw out here. And as far as back in the day, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment or achievement while being an El Paso jock?
Hmm. Hmm.
I remember Johnny Thompson used to let me off the air whenever there was a concert in town from my 7 to midnight shift to go broadcast live from the concert. So I got to go to every concert. Not only did I get free tickets, I was paid to go. It was the most awesome thing ever. I was off. In 1 week, I went to George Thorogood. The next night, I went to Prince and Sheila E. in Las Cruces. And the third night, it was Quiet Riot. It's like I saw the whole gambit in 1 week. So that
Nice.
was one thing that was really cool about El Paso radio.
Nice.
Hmm.
You know, it's funny, for years, I thought this was just so cool. Everybody remembers Magic Landing out on the east side,
Yeah.
short-lived amusement park. They kind of did a grand opening thing, and somehow I got picked to do a remote there. And I think I was working at K-Light, and I headed out there. And up until then, remotes had been really much more of a big deal. You had to have an engineer, and you had to have a Marty, and nobody had cell phone technology. Well, they handed me this brick phone. We all called them bricks. You know which ones I'm talking about. It was gigantic, and said, "Go forth and remote on your own." And I think the AE showed up, but I'm not quite sure. And but I remember doing a call-in from the top of the Ferris wheel at Magic Landing, and
Oh
for
wow.
years I just thought that was the coolest thing, to have done that early on in that technology, as that was changing, and now everybody just brings their own phone and they post their social, and it's how you do it. But in those days, it was a big switch from having an engineer going to go do a site survey before the whole deal, and setting everything up, and being, literally tied by wires, having to have a line of sight to the tower at the mountain. I just called it in, and I thought that was really, really cool. So
Yeah.
And it was a live break. I mean, you had to have your ducks in a row. There was no pre-recording, and it was just a live break. And
yep.
hopefully the signal would not cut out halfway through the break. I worked at a station here in Denver that had the worst signal on the planet. Seriously, a Martian could stand on, a mountaintop and still we'd have a shitty signal. And so anyways, it was like, oh, please, just please don't let it cut out during the break. You know, I think looking back for me, especially starting my career, in a smaller market and that's why I think I enjoy so much doing this local radio network show for local radio networks, because all the markets that we're in, they're very small markets, I mean, really small, like, some 10,000, maybe 6,500 people, but the thing, and we read their liners, their local liners, and a lot of them are seriously sometimes the lost cat or the dog or the so-and-so is getting together at the park or whatever it may be. And I love doing that because it takes me back to my early years in radio, where, you forget, I think we forget as personalities, sometimes who we're talking to, in their everyday lives. And, when it's all said and done, to me, it's just like, I don't know. When I'm doing these shows, it always reminds me of the tight unit that we had, especially working at KFIM with Johnny. 93Z was the same with Bob West and some of the crew there. But Johnny, and maybe because it was, the first station, the first big station I worked at in El Paso. I mean, I don't know. It's just everybody got along. Everybody was in for the same common goal, and he made it fun. And I remember our events. Flo, I'm sure you remember this, but our quote unquote book parties out at no, what is it? The park out there. What is it?
Western Playland?
Playland?
Is it Western Playland?
Yeah,
Okay, Western
Scaredy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I thought it was called. Is Scott it there or something like that? Yeah, Western Playland. And just so much fun. And I don't know. I to me, those are my memories, just I don't know. Just everybody around. I mean, let's just even now, let's fast forward how many years? 30 years. I mean, Flo, you guys have had such wonderful careers, look at Flo, look at Bill, look at you and Bill. For so long combined, you have 60 years in the business?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And such an impact that you guys have made in your markets, and we all got our start in this little bubble, so to speak. I think I'm babbling now. I think somebody should shut my mic off or give me a 10-second delay. But it's just that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes there was only a few stations here in Denver that was like that, that it was more than just the bottom line. It was more than just, the ratings. It was more than just this. It was us together as a family unit. And I don't know. I think that for me started in El Paso.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great tribute. Hey, before this is over, I do want to say one thing about one more person who was truly a great individual. Mary worked in the same building with him, and I had great luck when he was no longer on the air and came back and sold. But we got to mention Charlie Russell's name.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Doug Bowe.
Just have to, and Doug. But, Charlie was just one of the great old-fashioned gentlemen. And was just so good to work with. And Doug was one of those guys when I was the girl doing production, which I did for 6 years. I was a production director, and that was typically a guy with a big voice. I'd call Doug and say, "Hey, dude, send me a dub of this spot. Can you dub this for me? And I'll have an AE pick up the tape."
Oh my God. Yeah, but wait, Flo, I won't get to drive across town till later on tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
I need now.
Yeah, but no, and Doug was another one that was just a prince. We're very fortunate to have worked with guys like that.
Along with Charlie Russell was also T. Casper. Do you remember T?
I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
At K-Hay, he was quite a nice guy too. I really liked T a lot. Okay, you're getting photobombed, Flo. Who's the little guy there?
This is Tesla. She's had a hard couple of days. She had contractors in her house yesterday.
Oh,
baby.
And had a groomer date today. So she came to me looking for somebody to cuddle with. So sorry.
Save me, Mom. Save me.
Yeah.
She needs doggy CBD. What is it? CBD.
CBD.
Yeah, there you go.
I was literally going, I didn't know they sold it for dogs, even in a state that's been, marijuana legal for some years now. But I was driving to an appointment the other day, and literally outside it said CBD, humans/dogs. So I didn't know they sold it for dogs. I guess they do.
Yep,
my dad was a local veterinarian before he passed, and I think if he saw what all was going on with the CBD and everything these days, it's pretty amazing. What they do with it.
Yeah.
Well, I think now I can officially say that my show is going to the dogs. I'm so happy about this.
At least she's cute. She's a cute dog.
Yes, she is.
That's cool. Well, you all, this has been fun, and it's everything that I hoped it was going to be, having the legendary, gals from El Paso back together again, doing their thing. I'm glad you all are still involved in the industry and love what you're doing and doing it well. And thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedules to do this episode with me today.
Oh, thanks for
Oh,
having
thank
me.
you.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and Flo and Libby. It was great hearing your voices, and oh my goodness, I can't believe we're doing this so many years later. It's just crazy.
I know, it's fun.
Well, if you
Yeah.
ever want to do it again, give me a call. We'll make it happen. You know, I'm open for ideas all the time, but I love rekindling history and stories and keeping it alive, and that's what I do. So anyway,
Thanks, Rick.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
thank you guys. And all righty, guys. Well, I'm gonna cut this one off. Thank you again for doing the show. We've had a lot of fun with it, and let's stay in touch.
All
We
right,
will.
take care.
Thanks, Rick. Take
See
care,
y'all
Okay,
later.
everybody.
guys.
Say hi to
Say hi.
Bill.
Yes, say
Ah,
hi
we
to
said it
Bill.
together.
I
Say hi to
will.
Bill. Say hi to Bill.
I
Say
will.
hi to Bill.
I will. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did bringing it to you. To hear all of our episodes, just go to talkinrockradio.com. Also, Talkin' Rock Radio on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. I'd like to thank the El Paso History Radio Show on 690 AM, Remember in El Paso Win on Facebook, and KINT98.com radio. They're broadcasting our show every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. This is Rick Kern saying be kind to each other. Until next time.